Sie hören Sport und Musik.
Das Spiel ist aus! Deutschland ist Weltmeister!
Mario Götze! Mario Götze!
Tonight, whether you call it football, or soccer, a German American and a German in America dare to call it Fußball. German Fußball from an American point of view. Let's add some buns to that hamburger and join them for the Schnitzel Boys Deutschland Hour.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Schnitzel Boys Deutschland Hour. As it fades in, usually Bjorn does the tech, but I'm filling in today. And fade, and boom, there you go. Welcome to Schnitzel Night. Welcome to Monday night. This is the Germany Hour. I'm your host, Stefan Schnitzel, but we don't have Bjorn Schnitzel this week. We have a familiar face for the true Schnitzelkoffs who have followed us since day one. This is not his first time on the podcast, but we have a special guest, a Schnitzel cousin. Ladies and gentlemen, Matt Schnitzel. Yay!
Hello. From New York. How are you doing? Stefan,
Right.
Thanks for having me, man. This is so exciting. I can't wait to talk about Bundesliga, about Dortmund, about anything you have questions about. I'm excited, man.
No, yeah. Bjorn, my usual co-host, is with his son in Europe right now because his son is starting a post-high school journey in Europe, which is super exciting. And he's in the old country, and he keeps telling me there's no internet in Europe, which I'm suspect of. But I think he needs himself a little break, so I'm giving him a break. But this gives us a good opportunity to look at the Bundesliga from a couple different angles and to have a new voice, a new point of view. So you've been on here before, and the reason I invited you, other than being a good friend and a good improviser, good comedian, good someone to have a good conversation with, is you are a Borussia Dortmund fanatic. Is that correct?
Oh my gosh, I not only am I a fanatic, I have to say I've also directly 100% converted my girlfriend into being a fanatic too. Like,
That's so
like
cool.
it's fun. It's like it's gotten to the level where like certain weekends, obviously, you know how the Bundesliga works. It's early, maybe we won't catch a game. She
Right.
was the one catching me, being like, "Hey, when are we gonna actually watch the game?" Like, she's the one who's trying to figure out when we're like, if she's the first to think about if we have a schedule issue, how are we going to watch the game? So I'm a fanatic. I watch every game. I watched all the preseasons. So yes, that I that's the one thing I'm a fanatic about is Dortmund.
Do you watch Dortmund at bars ever? Do you ever go to the bar scene?
No,
Dortmund group or whatever.
I know. Okay, so for the Champions League final, I did go. I did take the advice of the Brooklyn Borussian group. I forget actually what their title is. I apologize, but they're wonderful, and we took their advice and we went to one of the bars they recommended. We had a great time. It was like very heavily Dortmund. There was like 5 or 6 Real fans, and they were a little obnoxious, but it was fine.
They had every other bar in the city.
It was wild.
Borussia just won.
It was
right.
crazy.
They're in Williamsburg, right? Is this Woodworks, or where is this at?
We went to Greenpoint or something like that in Williamsburg, somewhere in between those two areas, and it was very Dortmund. It was really nice. It was obviously Dortmund lost, and we were walking through the city, and any Real fan we saw after that was very sweet. I shook like many hands on it. Was very. They're like, "Hey, great game," and I was like, "Hey, you too, man." It was the most like bro-y. And then what was funny is my girlfriend lives in Elmhurst, Queens. And so we went out there and everyone had a Real jersey and no one said anything to me. But like in the Williamsburg, it was such a funny, I don't know.
Well, yeah, Borussia Dortmund definitely had a huge following in Williamsburg. I think that's what
for some reason. Yeah. Maybe it's hip thing. Maybe it's a hipster thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's a hipster connection. Real Madrid's much more corporate, I think. And
something like that. Yeah.
You know, and Real Madrid, along with Barcelona, has a huge stronghold in the Latin American community, and then New York City has got a huge Latin American community.
Very true.
Like even when as a Bayern fan, I go to bars, we'd always be outnumbered by the Real fans, even
Bayern, But tell me, are you similar in this way? I like it better on TV at my home, where I can just literally analyze it. I don't know why. Like if I'm at a bar, I feel like I have to talk and I have to like entertain. But when I'm at home, I'm literally just watching the defensive midfielder, and I'm like, wow, I'm trying to like coach in a way. It's way more 100%.
100. I wouldn't say it's more fun for me. I'm actually in the opposite vein where I do like the bar experience. But you're 100% right. Like, because over the World Cup, I was trying to make a trip to the bar, or Champions League final, trying to make a trip. But it's hard to focus. The beer's coming, you got people talking, it's not the same where if you're at home, you're 100% laser focused on the game, 100%. If I want to be more analytical, definitely watch it at home. But to me, nothing beats New York City is one of the better places for this, at least here in the States. Like being at a bar is the next best thing to being at the stadium, because like when a big goal scores and it's like a packed bar, it's like the emotion is just so much fun. I love yelling with everybody. I love high-fiving strangers. I'll always remember after Germany won the World Cup in 2014 when I was in New York City, walking around the city with the German jersey, just high-fiving anybody else with the German jersey. We're just like, we're not even saying hi to each other. We're just like, yes, we did it. And we get it. We don't have, no words are needed. It's just this beautiful communal feeling. I think the bar can offer you that. And so that I like. But you are right. It is hard to focus 100% on what's going on.
I'll say this. I enjoy going to the bar for U.S. men's games, because I think it's harder for me to watch those games, at least with Berhalter. It was harder for me to watch those games and be like, what am I just like got frustrated. That's more of a, let's go and get beers. And if we score, I'll go cheering. And I'm not going to I'm not going to really get upset if we lose. I don't know. I'm more invested in Dortmund. So
yeah, I would go to. We had episode of this before, and it's been a while. But my favorite go-to back in the day was Nevada Smith's, but that shut down, and then it became a new Nevada Smith's. That was by NYU. It was on it was on 2nd Avenue and 11th Street, something like that. But then they exist now, I believe, but they're a huge football bar now, more than a soccer bar, like American football. And then I like Jack Dempsey's a lot. And my current go-to, and I went to this when I was last time in New York, still a pretty great place, is Legends at the Football Factory.
Oh yeah, I've heard great things about those last two. Did you ever do Smithfield's when it was in the original spot?
Yeah, back when it was on 26th Street. I did it at both spots. I did it the original and the new one.
The new spot, I feel like that place is if you go on their Facebook, it seems like they get celebrities going there. I feel like Sir Alex Ferguson has stopped in that Smithfield's. It's
Probably.
What? I think so. I'm not even kidding. I think they'll have legends go there somehow. It's crazy.
Well, rest in peace, Grant Wall. Grant Wall used to go there all the time. He lived around the corner. And it's also where the buying group meets up. So I think I met up with the buying group there once or twice.
Great bar.
But also, I used to coach back in improv days. I used to be at a place called Champion Studios a lot.
Champs.
On 39th Street, and right across the street from that, because I'd coach from 3 to 5. And then I'd be like, I got to catch the Bayern game. So I'd run right across the street to Carragher's, because right across the street was
Carragher's. Was that a Bayern bar?
No, it's a Liverpool bar, Jamie Carragher.
Oh,
but I thought it was just an homage to him. But now watching the Champions League on Paramount Plus with Jamie Carragher as an analyst, he confirmed he's like a co-owner of that. It is his bar. I thought it was just a random happenstance. He goes there. He's a co-owner. He plugs it all the time. He must be like the owner of that bar.
That's so funny. It's like in Midtown. It's like you wouldn't assume.
On 39th Street.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so funny. Speaking of Dortmund, he became a big sort of Dortmund fan during the Champions League run. And there was all those funny clips of him getting drunk in the yellow wall. And I loved that CBS, because they didn't cut away at all. It was just him. I loved it.
The best part of that was in the post-game mixed zone with him and Peter Schmeichel, and Peter Schmeichel had to be his babysitter.
Yes.
Jamie Carragher was too drunk and loud, and Peter Schmeichel had to kind of manage him a little bit.
Schmeichel was like, I've made a lot of relationships here, and you're ruining them.
right, exactly. Yeah, I love it. I got it, man. That's definitely on my bucket list. It's got to be on your bucket list to go to the Yellow Wall, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's funny because I think because obviously in America we have such a big stadium culture, and we have huge stadiums here. I've been to Giant Stadium, which is technically bigger. I've been to a Michigan game, which is huge. But there's something about the Yellow Wall that I think would be like a religious experience for me.
Yeah.
That I read about on Reddit where people are like, I'm going to do it. And it's like, oh my gosh, I can't, maybe in 10 years I can think about it's something that seems so out of my realm of doing that. It's a dream.
Someday, my friend. Someday, I'm sure you'll have a blast.
Yeah, have you been to?
No, I've been to the stadium, but I was there in October. This is back. It's already been a year, hasn't it? Just 11 months ago. Remember, I think I sent you a couple of photos. But
yes.
The stadium is really cool. Very simple, like a German stadium. Not a lot of X's and O's and stuff. But I think stadiums in Europe are allowed to be a lot more vertical than here. I think we've got fire laws and they prevent that around here. So literally they're allowed to just stand, they're literally about to be right on top of each other, which is also the beauty of that giant yellow wall. So
Yeah.
a little bit more closer together and you're just amongst a bunch of people, where here there's laws restricting that kind of stuff.
It's interesting. But I was reading. Obviously we can jump into actual soccer at any point. But I was reading an article even about. I believe it's the new Clippers Stadium in LA, and
Right.
Ballmer was referencing the yellow wall as like, oh my gosh, I want to build a. And I think there's some other college basketball stadiums that are doing this too, where it's just a big stadium, a big seating of just the fans. And so he wants to have like an exclusive seating behind one of the sides, just like the yellow wall at the new Clipper Stadium. So
that's cool reference. I was invited to preview the new Clippers Stadium.
No way. Well, they literally worked with the Dortmund staff to come up with. I don't know. They talked.
If I'd have known that, I would have gone because I turned them down. Because I went to a Clippers game last year. Big time. No, it was just I went to a Clippers game last year, and they're trying to sell season tickets. So they built a display for prospective season ticket holders to come through. I don't have money for season tickets, but it was a free invite and it would have been interesting.
I think that's what he would. I was reading that Ballmer wanted to create some sort of a fandom situation where after seeing a certain amount of games, then you could be invited into the state. He was trying to create some sort of
I like it.
And I'm like, okay, that's kind of because in order to get to the yellow wall, you really it's a real difficult challenge
for some clubs, like a Borussia Dortmund. For some older clubs, getting a season ticket is very difficult because people and families have had them for years. They don't give them up. So there's no new spots. You're on a waiting list. And I think Borussia Dortmund's one of those clubs. We had Uli Hesse on here, who's a huge Borussia Dortmund fan.
Oh, nice.
Definitely. And I think he's been a season ticket holder since 79 or something, 78 or 79.
What?
And, and he goes with his son. So I think his son gets a season ticket by default or something. So for a new outsider, it's tough to even get a season ticket, for some clubs. For other clubs, not so much. Just depends on the situation. But anywho, Borussia Dortmund. Let's go in a deep dive here. Let's get specific.
Yeah, man.
I was really high on them. I thought they had a really, really great summer transfer window. I thought they were very aggressive, more aggressive than usual. And I thought they made a statement where they were, because they bought Maxi Bayer, they bought. They bought we did a big transfer episode 2 weeks ago, but they bought a bunch of firepower. They bought Pascal Gross, right?
Pascal Gross, Sergei Garassi,
right, that's right.
Maxi Bayer, and so
and then they bought a pretty big center back too. Who's the big center back?
Walter Anton, or
Waldemar Anton from
Waldemar
Stuttgart.
Anton.
They got Garassi and Anton from Stuttgart.
Yeah,
right.
Which to me, for the prices too. I mean, we had a really good transfer window. We got those two. I think I think they maybe had release clauses, or at least were somewhere near the release clause, because we got them for very cheap, both around 20 million. Yeah, our transfer window was amazing, and it was also buttered with the sadness of losing Royce and Hummels at the same exact time, which their collective leadership is so unrivaled right now. Right now on Dortmund, the most I think the player with the longest tenure is Julian Brandt with 5 years. It's very it's very low compared to anyone on Bayern or
it's a refresh.
It's a refresh for sure.
They're really oldies and refresh a little bit. Emre Can's still there, I guess, but
he's one of the ones, who. But even Brent was there before Can, which is a funny piece of trivia. But definitely the refresh was really strong. Getting rid of Wolf was important. Getting rid of some of the other sort of backups that ended up just getting starting positions over the years. But I'm really, really high on this new team. There's a couple weak points. And there's a couple exciting new. I think our winger situation and our striker situation is extremely exciting. So there's so many things to really, really look out for all season.
Yeah, let's try and think. Let's do. So they had a great game over the weekend. They've had a pretty good start to the season, right? I'm trying to think what they're.
Yeah, so I would say immediately some big standouts for me is that our wingers are just absolutely on fire. They're our main source of goals right now between Gittins, Mullen, and Adeyemi. They're all contributing like crazy, which to me is really exciting because they're holding back who I think could be even better. A player who could be as good or better is Duranville, who's sitting in the 4th slot right now, and he's a young, very talented, very Sancho-esque player. So we have a lot of talent, and the wings are all producing. So that's a really exciting sort of like. Whereas we have sort of a similar, sort of an opposite problem with our striker, where between Garassi was injured, but so we've been starting with Bayer, and he's had sort of a slow start so far. So it's going to be an interesting partnership between those two to see who gets the starting role. I think it's going to be Garassi, but we have so many. Like we were talking offline, but we have so many games this season. There's like a surge of games between the Champions League, adding an additional 2 games in the group stage alone. Obviously the Pokal, obviously just the season wear and tear. We had the Olympics, we had the Euros. There's just so many. It's going to be a long season. So I think Dortmund does have the depth in a lot of the key places to really last.
Yeah, 100% added games this season, and Borussia Dortmund reinforcing their squad, and they have all these titles. And in the past, maybe the depth has bitten them in the butt towards the latter stage of the season. And seems like, especially with the kind of depth they bought this summer, they're trying to address that. But you mentioned there's some concerning points. We mentioned this on the podcast before with Niklas Zula, who was claimed to have renovated himself and been a whole new player. And
have you seen him?
I saw him in the last game. I mean, is he the new player he claims to be, or what are we talking with Niklas Zula here?
Well, I mean, there are flashes of the Solinho Bayern version of him where he's got the footwork still. He's got technical ability, and I genuinely think he's dropped like 50 to 60 pounds. I don't know what that is in kilos. I'm not great with
60 pounds. I think it's a little.
I'm not even joking. He's thin. In this last game, he's like Ozempic thin. It's kind of like, what is happening?
Maybe he's not Ozempic.
Honestly, it's kind of like he lost a lot of weight in like 4 months, because like back in May, I don't even know if he made. I mean, he definitely made the Champions League final roster, but he wasn't making some of the final rosters because of his fitness.
He wasn't part of Germany anymore. They got rid of him, for the national setup. Yeah.
But to go back into with Sula, and the concerning point I had was that our center back situation is really thin. And in our first 2 games, we were starting our 3 center backs. We were doing sort of a 3 at the back system, and we have no backups. And so it's a very interesting. I'm not sure exactly why we're doing it that way. And in the second game, Schlotterbeck got a red card and immediately exposed. Like, well, now what? Like, Schlotterbeck's out in the next game, and now we have 2 center backs and no backup. So I'm a little, everyone online, and when I say online, the Dortmund subreddit is pretty active. I like to be there, I discuss Dortmund there a lot. So there's a lot of like concerns why we didn't sign a young backup, or we let Hummels go for such a personal reason, but he could have been possibly the perfect person to have still on this team. With the way we're playing 3 at the back, one injury, so it's just an interesting. I don't know why we don't have more backups for center back.
Well, yeah, definitely, especially playing a back 3. The Werder Bremen game. I think that's the one game you dropped points this season.
Yeah.
And, Mats Hummels went off to Roma, I believe I learned, and then Marco Reus here in LA, so I get to see him. I was actually
so
very
jealous. I'm so jealous.
Yeah.
I was hoping maybe there'll be some playoff. I think it would have to be in the finals, and LA would have to. I don't know if it's even possible, but I was hoping maybe somehow I would be able to see.
They come to New York, you're saying?
Something like that.
That would have to be the final, and that's never going to happen because LA Galaxy are seated higher than both the New York teams. So if they were to make a run to the final, New York would be coming to LA.
Oh, okay. So there comes. Yeah, there you go.
So there you go. So you have to fly here to LA, my friend. But next year they can come through New York.
I know. I'm so excited. I'm gonna get a jersey and everything. I love Royce. I'm literally wearing a Royce jersey. So
number 11. What season is that from?
I think this is from the 2018 or 2019 season. I'm pretty sure it's one of my favorites.
It's from before they did the self-design where they put the
Yeah.
the edge of the stadium on it or whatever.
I have that one too. That was last year's. That's a great one. This year's I'm not that into, but this one I love the long sleeve Royce. I think that's just like a classic Royce look.
I'm gonna. It reminds me. I guess I have a couple off-field questions for you too, but I'll save those for later. I'm
Oh,
sure you
cool.
know
Yeah,
what I'm
please.
talking about. But as far as back on the on-field, you said weaknesses. Is that because Schlotterbeck again is a huge topic here in the podcast?
Interesting,
Because
really.
Schlotterbeck, well, because he's such a blunder and a half. He's like towards the end of last season, he was tippy top. It's like that's the Schlotterbeck that earned his call up was the end of last season.
Yeah.
But then there are moments where he brain farts, and I believe, like I said, he has already had a couple of those moments this season. So Schlotterbeck's one of those guys. It's like, is he going to have a good game or is he going to ruin your game? It's one or the other, kind of with him.
I know,
So,
and with Hummels as his partner, he was very, very disciplined. He was Hummels was very seasoned in the sense. I think Schlotterbeck could be risky, and Hummels would know what that meant, and then Hummels would love to go forward, and Schlotterbeck would read that too. And so I think there's immediately some maybe chemistry issues. I don't know, but also I'm not sure. We haven't seen a lot.
With Hummels though, it seemed like he was locker room. He had locker room stuff there towards the end because he's very open, critical of the coach, who they did get rid of.
Yeah,
the coach, I was kind of critical as well. But like, it's not healthy for Aiden Terzic and Mats Hummels to yell at each other in the press a week before your Champions League final.
No.
So like, I mean, if Mats Hummels had that problem before, a lot of Germans do. They're very brutally frank, so they have mouths on them. And Mats Hummels no different. But I'm wondering if that's maybe healthier for them to get rid of someone like that because it causes divisions in the locker room. Because you did mention there was some personal stuff. That's why Mats Hummels left at the end of the season.
Yeah, I think you touched on it all there. And he definitely was at odds with Terzic. And I think right after, like almost the day after the Champions League final, I'm pretty sure he was very much like it's me or him type thing.
Right.
And I mean, it's very hard to probably side with your center back instead of your head coach. So I think they made it clear that they're not going to move forward with a new contract. And then the day after, Terzic announced his, which I think to me was like, I don't think they got rid of him. I think he was, I really don't know, and maybe you know more, but I think he was like, this is not going to work. I think if Terzic really loves this club, he knows that this is not the phase. He needs to leave and then he can come back again. Like this is,
right.
He leaves on his terms, he can come back again, like, so,
yeah, that's true.
That's always how I saw it. I saw it as like, it's breaking. It's like a weird breakup where you'll come back in 10 to 15 years once you get a little bit more seasoned or something.
Yeah, I don't know the specifics of it either. It's one maybe to ask Uli. He tends to know a couple people behind the scenes. But like, yeah, I know I know last year was so interesting because up until the Christmas break, it looked pretty rough for Dortmund. And I was always very critical of Terzic. Then when they added Nuri Sahin and the other assistant coach, what was his name? Sven Bender, the former players. Then all of a sudden, like when they did an announcement, I was like, what's that supposed to do? And boy, was I wrong because it like
changed
completely
everything.
Re-energized the club. And then this whole second half of the season was amazing. It led to that run to the Champions League. And it was just the Dortmund, Dortmund you haven't seen before in a while. I was like, dang, those assistant coaches.
It was crazy. It turned.
It's important.
You never would have guessed that they what is Sahin doing in the backside, like behind closed doors that we don't see? Like what is? And so I think
that's
whatever
what I'm saying.
That must have done enough to give confidence to the new brass. Because also the Dortmund heads have been turning over too, and so there's been so much refreshing. Where jobs
Watzke's still in charge, right? Am I wrong?
Watzke, I think, stepped down last year, and
did?
Oh my gosh, everything is transitioned. Like everyone's kind of pushed to the next, and I forget who Watzke has stepped down to. I'm drawing a blank at the moment. I probably should just look it up.
You keep vamping, or I'll vamp. I think
Lars
Ricken
took over for Watzke, and then they hired another.
Lars Ricken, though. Lars Ricken's he's been Borussia Dortmund for years, though. He's just I think he was an executive staff there for a long time, a former player.
they were passing, and then they hired a new guy. I mean, I should really know this better. I'm sorry, but they show them every game, and I'm like, yes, okay,
Right.
I can identify.
Always a Statler and Waldorf situation at the Bundesliga. So because in Bayern München it's always Hoeneß and
Yes,
Rummenigge, and at Dortmund it's always Watzke and Baldi. What's his name?
the
Baldi
bald
McGee.
guy, Sommer.
Zama, yeah, who was a long time both Dortmund and Bayern München. Yeah,
Was he?
Zama,
Okay.
he's the executive director there too now, isn't he?
He's still there, yeah, but he, I think, even changed his role over the last few years. And then we have we have a president now too, I believe, or a sporting. We added a new role in the last 2 years, and that guy, he
Maybe.
looks slick. Let's just say that he looks like the money. And ever since him,
Young's
we've been getting all these crazy. We have Rhine medal now. We have all. I don't know. So who
well,
knows?
those are the off-field questions I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
In addition to, we'll leave that be for a bit, but like,
Sure.
so I didn't know. I should have looked into that too about the board refreshing. But yeah, but what I'll say is Nuri Sahin, I was always a little critical. I always had criticism of Aiden Terzic, which is funny because they actually did really well under him. They choked the Bundesliga. They should have won last 2 seasons ago. And then last year they did a run to the Champions League. That they should not have won, but if they won, would have been amazing. But that's still under.
They were
his
the
2
better team for
seasons,
60 minutes, right?
right, until the end, But for Borussia Dortmund for 2 seasons, he had second place in the Bundesliga, and then he won a silver medal in the Champions League. Their first final appearance since Klopp. That's not
Yeah.
too shabby as far as the
No.
record goes. But there was just something with the way they played that always rubbed me the wrong way. And with them replacing him with an unproven coach like Nuri Sahin, I was like, okay, this will be interesting. And although it's only been a little bit, but I think Nuri Sahin is doing, I think, a pretty dang good job. I don't know. I'm a little more excited by Nuri Sahin's tactics than Aiden Terzic's tactics, I think.
I think you and I are the same. I agree with you there, and I think Nuri actually, if you look at, some of the if you look at the analytics of what he's doing, there's just a lot more intricacies in the passing. There's a lot more where I think in the past, I was thinking about this earlier. I think in the past the Dortmund teams have been sort of. We've had really, really good technical players, really, really great players across the board, but like 1 or 2 qualities of every player didn't quite fit the system. Maybe it just didn't work. And like Fulkrug, for example, was our striker last season. Really, really talented guy, scored maybe upwards 20 goals for us. Like very, very productive season. But like he would be effective 75% of the time. And if there was a very tall, athletic center back who could just out-head him, then his game was flat. He wasn't going to outrun you. He wasn't going to out-dribble you. He doesn't have the off-the-ball movement the same way. So he was sort of one-dimensional. When that dimension worked, we scored goals. And now with Guirassy, I think we get a little bit more of a dynamic player who can actually link up with our wingers. And immediately we're seeing our wingers score, which is great. Not because of Guirassy, but I think our tactic involves our wingers a lot more. So I don't know. I think we're seeing a lot more goals, which is awesome. I think we're also letting in a lot of goals, but that is a center back. That is our defense. That is us trying to figure out what that system looks like still. Because we have a 3 at the back, and then we shift into a 2 at the back for offense, but then we shift back to a 3 at the back for defense. We're doing these like dynamic, which is becoming popular, I think, for a lot of teams to have 2 formations, both for offense and defense.
Right. Yeah.
So we're shifting to so who knows? Like Adeyemi plays a wing back and defense, and then he shifts into a winger for offense. So there's some fun stuff that Sahin's got going on.
Wing back? Who are the so with a back 3, it's usually a 3-5-2 with 2 wing backs, right? So who are the 2 wing backs? So Adeyemi, and who's the other one?
Well, it's been Ryerson, who is one of these like workhorses that a lot of people probably don't even know his name. If you're a neutral, he's just like he's a little bulldog. He's great, and they keep trying to like replace him, and he keeps fighting for that spot. We bought Jan Couto from Brazil, who's a very talented I think Barcelona product or Manchester City product. I forget which one. And Ryerson is still holding down the spot, and he's got sort of an Ian Matson profile, the Jan Couto. So he has a lot of potential to take over the spot, but Rierson's holding it down at the moment. And then we have Bensebaini on the other side, to sort of either be the left back or just transition into the wing back when Adeyemi's not there. And he's more of a center back and has less speed and less crossing ability, but
When it becomes the back four, do the three transition into a two back, and then one of the threes becomes a left back or something like that?
There's something like that, or because of Pascal Gross, who is another amazing sort of like, he just
Great
seems like
two-way
he fits.
player, yeah.
Amazing two-way player, probably runs the
Mhm.
most of anyone on the team. He will slot backwards, like Chan does that a lot. He'll slot backwards
Mm.
into the center back position as this is in the two. I don't know. I have to analyze a little bit more, but usually Gross will shift back, or Chan in that position.
Well, let's go. So I know the big question for me under Terzic was always their defense.
Sure.
And it sounds like you're still undecided about the defense this season. Is that your big concern? You said with some concerns. Is that your
Yeah.
major concern? Is just the defensive shape and the fact you have the back three, but you don't really have confidence in your bench as far as your back three goes?
There's definitely that. We don't have we just don't even have a bench. Like there's not. I think
Mm.
we just don't have a center back. On if we play with two at the back and two traditional, a left back and a right back, then we will have one center back. Um,
To
uh,
spare.
yeah, to spare is I guess what I'm trying to say. But the
Right.
thing I think last year, if you looked at our defensive, we were using Sabitzer a lot as like a
Mhm.
defensive player when he's just such a good box to box attacking midfielder, and he really proved
Right.
it during the Euros. Like he was so good for Austria, right?
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
He was like so good, and so I think this year we're trying to push him more into that box to box midfielder role. And instead of Chan, this last game we had Nemecha playing our defensive midfielder, and he has gotten extremely athletic, and he was all over the place in a way that we haven't seen him before. So if he can actually turn out to be one of these very athletic two-way players, then technically between Gross and him, I think that'd be a wonderful double pivot to of just these two guys who are going to effortless like just run the whole game. That would be an amazing. To me, that would work because then you have this dynamic. If everything's got to be dynamic, if our backline's dynamic, everything's dynamic. So we need to have a
Mhm.
dynamicness in the middle too to adjust for if we have our right back streaking up. Someone's. So
And how do
I think
they?
that helps. We have a more defensive mindset for our double pivot is what I'm trying to say.
And the other thing that's really hip with soccer these days is getting out of the pass out the back. I mean, you do pass out the back, but skipping the midfield and getting up top real quick. Is that the kind of stuff you're seeing with Borussia Dortmund? They're trying to cut the midfield out. They're just trying to move it up as fast as possible with 1-2 passes.
That was a full Krug special. He was pretty good
Right.
at
Yeah,
receiving
yeah.
it. If that was his game that day and he was on, we would see a lot of success, and he would link up with Brandt a lot that way because Brandt's our center attacking midfielder a lot of the times. Yeah, and so that would be an over the top approach would work. We love playing out the back. We still do that, but I
Mm.
think because of Garassi, I think he's even got like 3 inches on full Krug. I
Mm.
think we'll hopefully still have that option for us.
So you're saying you move the ball like total football style up the field.
I'm not
Okay.
totally. I
Mm.
think what's nice under Sahin is I've seen a lot of different
Variety.
options. He
Yeah.
has a lot of varieties. He's a lot of different ways of attacking, and because of our speed, that that quick over the top ball actually can work if you get that connecting pass. But I haven't. The thing is with Sahin's, I haven't seen enough. I just between 3 games, I don't know what I've seen yet because Garassi's only been available for this last game because of injury. I feel like we haven't really even seen what his
Right. We haven't
full
seen him
vision
fly.
is.
You haven't
Yeah,
seen
and
him cook
Bayer
yet.
hasn't done it
Yeah.
yet he hasn't connected as a striker yet. So it's like
Right.
I'm really excited, especially I think for Club Bruges this week for the Champions
Mhm.
League. I think it's going to be the first time we're playing slightly. No offense to Club Bruges, we're playing a slightly weaker team that we can try some
Sure.
of the more aggressive counterattacks and pressing tactics.
Yeah, and yeah, no, 100%. And we talked about this too on the pod. Maxi Baya has a big year because he was like the new up and comer, sort of towards the end of last season, he was a new guy. But then over the summer, he was then put on the German national team for the home Euros, and then he was signed a big contract at Borussia Dortmund, which is one of Germany's bigger clubs. And a lot of eyes are now on Baya, and he went from being the young sort of whippersnapper 6 months ago to now it's like, all right, kid, you're front and center. You got it or you don't got it. And is
Yeah.
that one of those moments where he has to show that he has it or he doesn't have it? So there's a lot of pressure on a young Maxi Baya. So it's a big
I
season for him this year.
I agree, but I also say that I think Dortmund did a really smart thing by also hiring Garassi,
Mm.
because I think, is going to get 60%, 70% of the starts when Bayer has a little bit of space to fight and win that space or win that role.
Mhm.
Because I don't think Bayer is going to win one of the winger roles. They're too good right now. There's no space for that. Maybe a center attacking mid if Brandt goes down, but then Reina, who we haven't even talked about,
I
is
was saving him for later, but yeah.
okay. Sorry, I
No
mean,
spoilers. But those were the questions of like when we're talking about all this. Now, where does Reina fit in all this? That's sort of
he's
the
Brand's
question. Where does
backup.
he?
I think he's Brand's backup. I
So he
think
comes off the
Royce.
bench for Blunt, right? And
Yeah,
Blunt is replacing Marco
Royce,
Royce's old role, pretty
more or
much. Yeah,
less.
yeah.
Yeah, more or less.
Hans
Yeah.
Wolf. We got a Hans Wolf in the chat. How you doing? Hello, Hans. Thank you for joining us. One of our regular Schnitzel Cuffs, a Colin fan. We're doing a Dortmund deep dive. I don't know if you see the
Hello.
comments on your thing. There you
Oh,
go.
I haven't seen it. Oh, hello. There, I see it now. Hello,
But yeah,
Hans.
so Reina, yeah, Reina's interesting.
Yeah,
I definitely thought he should have left. I know he was linked to
yeah.
Olympic Marseille. I would have loved that.
Me
But
too.
there's a new coach, and he did get 10 minutes in that first game. And if he's the first guy off the bench for Blunt, that's better than nothing. But Blunt is expected to be on the field 99% of the time, isn't he?
Yeah, he's the vice captain. He's
Right.
more often than not going to probably be the captain on the field. Because it's Chan and then it's Schlotterbeck and Brandt, and so I don't know who's gonna win out between Brandt and Schlotterbeck at the time, but Chan hasn't been performing well, so he sat this last game,
Hmm.
and I think Brandt was the captain on the field. So yes, you're right. I don't know. But again, it's such a long season that
Right.
there's going to be knock after knock. I'm like, part of me is I think I was watching some of the U.S. games with Reyna. I'm like, yeah, the guy looks amazing. He looks
Yeah.
fluid. He
Yeah.
can put a pass with perfect weight on in any scenario. And when he's playing a role that he's really good at, he's the best on the field. And so it's so confusing between Forrest and between, or no, I'm
Mhm.
sorry,
No,
was he
Forrest. Yeah,
Forrest?
yeah.
Forrest,
Forrest.
right?
Yeah. He didn't play
Between
any
Forrest and
minutes for
last
Forrest.
season, it's like, what's going on? Like, I think it's a mentality thing. I
Mhm.
really don't know,
Yeah, Gio
but
can ball. He's a
he
real
can
deal.
ball.
When what's his face, the big Nordic giant? What's this
Yeah, dude, that goal that
when
he plays,
Holland
when
when
he
Holland
placed
was
the
on the
ball in
team?
Holland's foot on that Manchester City goal, when he puts it like
Yeah,
30 yards out, I can
they were
hear it.
thick thieves, and like Gio could play. They were both coming out, and Gio's a real baller. For people
Yeah.
that doubt him, they don't know what they're talking about. But yes, the fact that he hasn't been playing the last season and a half, he's got injury problems, stuff with
Yes.
his
Lots of
parents. Maybe his
knocks.
parents aren't the best. Like it is, I agree. The mentality
Jude
needs to.
Bellingham's his best friend, which is like, ugh.
Yeah.
No
Well,
offense to Jude fans out there, but that guy is corrupted. Yeah, I don't know.
I
I
didn't
think he
notice.
just feels like he got Hollywooded so
Yeah.
fast.
And he
No
doesn't deserve
offense.
it. You got to earn. You got to earn it first, my friend.
Yeah,
That's why I was
I'm not.
excited for him to go to Olympic Marseille. To just go somewhere to play. He was. I would love to have seen him go to Bochum for the season. I think
Yeah,
Nuri nixed that, but that would have been so good for him. Doesn't matter how small the club is. He just needs to go on a string of playing, and I think he'll come out again. And I thought
yeah,
Bochum would have been a really good move for him. But he's
totally
at
agree.
Dortmund. So all right, it's prediction time. Tell me, A, how much is Gio Reyna going to play this season? And B, how is Borussia Dortmund going to do this season?
Um, how much is Reyna going to play? I think Reyna will play. I mean, um, I think if he has, I mean, he's going to play, I think 25% of the games in some capacity, whether it's a sub or starter. And I think it'll be because of injuries. Knox, Brandt can't play every single game. He's never proven he could. And we don't have a creative midfielder like him. So as long as he's healthy, because he got a knock like a month ago. So it's like, again, like he's just not, I don't know. I think new coach who likes him in a role 25% of the time, he's gonna have a good season. It's just gonna be very patient.
All right. And how
And
is
then we're
Borussia Dortmund going to do this year?
we're gonna do top four. I don't know if we'll win. I think we've got the plantings to root nicely for the future. And next season, I think we're going to be very lethal if we can hold on to some very big contracts, like we keep Adeyemi around, We decide on Mullen, Gittins, and Duranville, and we're gonna have we're gonna have Garassi and Bayer no matter what. So I think our attacking weapons are like going to get better. But this year, I think we're gonna have to figure out Sahin. I think it's gonna be a long season, and first season as a head coach, and he's 35. It's gonna be really hard to win. It's gonna be especially with a very competitive Bundesliga.
Yeah, and something I'm always rooting for is some wonder kid comes up from Borussia Dortmund 2, who's like the new young hot whippers.
That's
Maybe get some
Duranville,
great
man.
maybe get some great new center back who's right out of the second team, who's a wonder kid.
We've been waiting for that for so long. We haven't had the center back, but
Everybody
we have two breakout stars. It's going to be Julian
Yeah.
Duranville for sure. He is. Speaking
Well, I
of
remember from
Manchester,
last season, right? And he came off. He was a player last season, right?
well, yeah. He was injured last season. He had a pretty nasty injury. I forget what it was. But the year before he came on, his debut for Dortmund was in the quarterfinal game against Manchester City, maybe semifinal. I forget what. Not maybe I forget what level. He came on in like the 80th minute and was the most electric player on the field for 10 minutes. And he was like 2 years younger. And so had some injuries. He's back now and he looks great. He looks so good in preseason. He looks dangerous, but he's just like got to wait his turn. Between a lot of Gittins is the same way. Gittins is going to have a huge season. Adeyemi is going to have a huge season, mostly because he can play two-way ball. He'll actually defend.
Adeyemi has had a great start this season. He was the star of the game over the weekend, and he's been crushing it.
He was great on the under-21s for Germany, scoring 5 goals in 2 games. So
no, he's a real deal. I'm looking really good on their season. I think, the coach is young. Will they win it this year? Who knows? But I'm probably in the same boat with maybe not, but maybe another runners up. We'll see.
I think. Yeah, because also we have Leverkusen, who obviously is not seeming they are not all powerful. It's proving, and then but I think Bayern is stronger than ever. So
they're looking pretty decent. They haven't lost a game yet. So under Vincent Company, under Vincent Company, they say online.
Yeah, which I was going to ask, how do you feel about that?
How they pronounce his name, or just him as a coach?
Him as a coach. I was trying to read Hans's. Eventually, true story. Eventually, the word Riz. Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah, a year ago you said I had that Riz. I didn't know what it was, and Hans Wolf was with us.
That's so funny. I forgot about that.
They heard it on the podcast. They put it in the Webster's dictionary. Look at us go. Well done.
It had to be us. It had to be us. I just realized all my lights turned off without me doing anything, so I have to just turn them back on.
What are you? I was gonna say, did you break a trip or something?
No, I have hue. I have hue lights.
Nice. I have LifeX. I have the other one.
Oh, nice.
You going blue? Yeah.
I should have done this.
Yellow
Look
for
how
Dortmund.
much better this looks. Oh my gosh! I was looking. Here we go.
This is more visual bit. But here, let's.
Oh, maybe I should do yellow.
I did it for Dortmund, but usually because I am here for Red Bulls, I usually do a little red situation.
Oh, is that your physical background doing that?
Well, it's just my overhead light. It's my overhead light.
That's great. It looks great. Here, I'll go.
Maybe a little green. How about that? A little this, a little that.
Oh, look at that for the fans. That's what they want. You're asking for this, Hans, right? You want to color action?
This is for the visual fans. So if you're a podcast listener, watch us live. But the way I feel about Vincent Company is undecided. I think he's been doing a great start to the season. He hasn't lost any games, but they're not lighting up. They're not lighting up a fire right now. So
he was such a surprise to the entire soccer community.
Yeah, they had to because Bayern München offended every coach that was available, which was like a list of 5 or 10 guys, and all of them said no for different reasons because of Uli Hoeneß and the way it works around there. It's a very undesirable job. It became a very undesirable job.
Yeah, it seems like
Vincent Company, whose resume included relegating Burnley. I think that was the beginning and end of his resume. And he was a Man City's coach, I think. But, Bayern München is a club full of great players, so just get out of their way. And it seems like he's doing a pretty good job with that. Yeah. And we'll see how it lasts over time. We'll see what he's like when he gets challenged tactically from another coach. We'll see. We'll just see. But right now they're winning. They're not lighting up a fire, even though they did have a 6-1 victory over the weekend. But I think that's more Holstein Kiel talking than Bayern München talking.
But also, Musiala looks unbelievable.
Yeah, I have a big proclamation on this podcast where I think he's going to be the next Cristiano Ronaldo, but that's just me. He reminds me of a young Cristiano Ronaldo. He's just really exciting on the ball. He's not perfect all the time yet, but he's young. I think when he gets older, he'll have much more. His hit rate will just get better and better.
Does he have that power to him? Does he like?
Yeah, he needs to. You mean like strength?
Yeah.
I mean, he's young. He needs to add on some muscle.
That seems like his one down. Like if in comparison, like he has the quickness and the sort of that technical footwork and can just sneak a shot like from at any second, right? Like he's
but he
got
gets
the fastest feet.
Easily. Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like if you just gain like 10 pounds of muscle, then he's like, I don't know.
Cristiano was like that too. He was a thin little.
That's true.
Yeah. So when he gets older, it's going to add that. It's going to add some of those muscles.
Is Harry Kane going to have the most goals in the league this year? He's leading right now.
Yeah, I'll say yes.
I don't think there's another.
Because
there's not a better option.
There's going to be games throughout the season where Bayern Munich are going to win 8-0. I was at the Bayern Munich. Who'd they play? Was it Paderborn? No, I forgot who. Yeah, they won 8-0. I think. Ooh. And Harry Kane scored a hat trick, including a goal
do remember
the half field.
Yes. Oh wow. Yes.
Yeah. God, who was it? It was. I don't remember. Maybe Hans Wolf. You remember?
That was early in the season, wasn't it? That was one of those.
Yeah, I was there in October, so it would have been in October.
Yeah.
But Bayern Munich's gonna have a handful of those games. So Harry Kane's gonna give himself 10 goals just off games like that. Then he'll have another 15 to 20 off the more challenging games for the season. Mm-hmm. So can anyone beat that? I don't know. I don't think so. So I think I'm going to give to Harry Kane again.
Yeah.
And you're right. It was going to, unless Guirassy gets, maybe Guirassy gets going. I don't know if there's anybody.
Boniface.
Boniface for Bayer Leverkusen. Kramaric for Hoffenheim.
Yep.
Trying to think.
He looks great over the weekend.
Yeah.
And the guy that they replaced Guirassy with at Stuttgart, Demirovic or something like that.
Right.
He looks fantastic too.
Maybe Dennis Undav will light it up this year.
Yeah. I feel like there's good strikers, really, really talented, dynamic strikers in the league right now. The Bundesliga is, a very, very strong league.
Always on this podcast is the strongest league. Always.
I mean, I'm a big football manager. I'm a big football manager player, and so my big goal in Football Manager was to make the Bundesliga number one. I never ended up doing it, but then I went to coach in Oxford because I wanted to do something lower and figure something out. And then while I was there, the Bundesliga became number one, and I was like, "Yeah,
there you go.
That was me. I did a lot of that work."
I would love to see the details of their TV contracts. They've got. Right now, England's leading everybody by a whole.
Dude,
everyone has to
crazy.
double their intake to match England right now. The English
crazy.
monster continues. They can just, when a West Ham can outmuscle Borussia Dortmund over the signing of Niklas Füllkrug, But the good thing is German like RB Leipzig sold what's his face for $50 million to Barcelona. I mean, the German clubs are just running to the bank with all this money.
Yeah,
they're just like, it's like, how much did they sell Füllkrug for? He was 32. He was over 30. I think it was a record transfer of a player of that age. They got 30 million from West Ham for Füllkrug, I think. And you just can't say no to that. They're like, he's 32. Who's going to pay $30 million for a 32-year-old player? Only the English clubs will. So let's say yes to that. Let's sell that player.
If there's a market for it, especially, I mean, and then what I love is when we go into these international competitions and we stomp and we do just as well. And Leverkusen is like an iron. I mean, I'm really excited to see them in Champions League this year. So just because their team was fantastic and they won the Europe, they won the Europa. Right?
They made a run to the final. Both finals had German clubs in them, but they lost both of them, unfortunately.
They lost. That's right.
That was the only game they lost last year.
That's right.
Crazy. But they won the domestic double. Now, I did sort of a TikTok about this, but essentially the English league has all this money, but their scouting is really lazy. All they do is buy finished products.
Yeah.
The Bundesliga always keeps an eye on their budgets because they have financial controls. They spend on scouting and recruiting really well. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, only 11 people are out on the field. So an English club will have 11 proven players who were good last year or 2 years ago. Whether they're good now, we don't know. We'll see if they can keep it up. And then the Bundesliga club will have 11 players of guys never heard of, but they're very well scouted and should be able to match talent for talent. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, the great equalizer is the fact that it's always going to be 11 guys and it's always going to be 90 minutes. You can't buy.
Isn't that beautiful? You can't break that.
Can't break that, baby. Can't break that.
Well, case in point is Chelsea with the meme of them having like 45 players on the field.
I think they spent they spent like $1 billion. They spent like a record. They spent like $1 billion on players the last 2 or 3 seasons or something like that.
I saw so many memes.
Of money.
It was crazy. Yeah. I saw so many memes, and then I think the day after all these memes came out, they signed Sancho from Man U, and I was like, "That's so oh my god, poor guy." Like he's one of my favorites. So I just because of
it's a shame. It's a shame they couldn't. It's a shame Borussia Dortmund couldn't figure out.
But he's kind of in that same sort of boat. Not to kick it back, but like getting rid of the old guard and getting rid of the like. He's an expensive winger when we have wingers producing for even cheaper that are hungry for 1/10 of his salary. So like, it's a no-brainer kind of. You have to get rid of that, unfortunately, sometimes. I love him. 100%. I love him.
You got to refresh.
I would have paid the money for it, but I
sometimes you got to unplug the router and plug it back in to refresh the signal.
So we're running low IP addresses.
Like you got to get those dynamic. You got to get a static IP.
What are you doing?
Unplug the box and get.
You got to have a DC IP, especially if you have a Plex server, and you got to static that Plex server IP.
Right. And then,
what are we talking about?
That's when I was at the board at Borussia Dortmund. That was my plan. I was just like, "What the hell are you talking about?" I was like, just sell the old guys and hire young guys. Like, yes, that I understand. So quick predictions. We didn't get a chance to talk about the Champions League much. I do have to pull out soon.
Sure. Yes, please tell me when we're over.
So this week we are starting our new Champions League, and then you said who do you got? You got Club Brugge. Club Brugge.
Yes.
All right.
We have them
Bruges
on Wednesday.
Or home? A home?
That's a good question. I believe we're home. I have the Europa up. I think we're
You're at Bruges.
Yes.
Okay, so that'll be a fun game. Give me a score on that.
3-1 us, probably.
Nice.
We're gonna let a goal in. But we're gonna win.
All right, I like that. And the new Champions League format starts this week. There's Americans to look at. There's 5 German clubs to look at. There's 2 added games, match days, and there's a lot more games in general. And look at the schedule. There's games on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays now. So there's Champions League all week long for us to enjoy.
There used to be 4 games a day. Now there's 6 games a day for Champions League. And then we were saying there's 18 games for Europa on Thursdays, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. There's a lot to watch.
You know what's crazy? In 10 years, it's going to be twice as many just because there's no end to this.
Yeah, you might
there's
be
just
right.
Gonna be like, oh yeah, can you believe it? There's 14 match days, and then we get to the group. Then we get, I don't know.
Or we're just at a precipice and a bubble's about to burst. We'll see. This is definitely a direct response to the breakaway Super League that was quashed. This is their answer to that. So we'll see if it's effective. I actually really enjoy. A lot of people are suspect of this. I really enjoy the fact that every match day is a different matchup. It's just like who you're gonna. It's just 8 different. It's 7 opponents, right? No, it's 8 opponents. It's 8 games, 8 opponents. And they're all different. No one repeats. So I don't know.
Yeah, I know that there's some mathematical sort of fairness to it based on sort of weights and all this stuff. I'm curious how it's going to shake out because once we actually see it, we're going to be like, oh, here's what doesn't make sense about it, and here's what's actually great about it. We're going to figure it out. Like
we're going to figure it out.
But yes, I forgot what I was going to say, but yes.
Yeah, I mean, the only other question I had for you, like I said, we're running behind, was about the Rheinmetall partnership. Do you have what's your thoughts on that?
I don't have a super strong opinion. I think there's a lot of fans who are pretty upset by it because of obvious reasons. They're funding both sides. They're participating in both wars and funding a lot of weapons on both wars for a lot of sides.
So for a quick rundown for the fans who don't know, the Borussia Dortmund signed some partnerships with some sponsors, and a big one was Rheinmetall, which is a weapons manufacturer. So, and the Dortmund fans, like, well, hold on, we don't. It's like
it's not us.
We get a say in because like when Bayern Munich had a sponsorship with Qatar Airways a couple of years ago, they had a problem with that because of Qatar's human rights stuff, So they signed this big deal with the weapons manufacturer, and the fans are very outspoken about it.
Where I fall personally, I think I don't know. I think it could be there are worse sponsors in this world at the moment. So And maybe
As
that's
Americans,
callous, but I'm American in that weird way. Yeah, I don't know.
what's
What'd you?
callous?
Yeah, I don't know.
What's Oh, you mean it is callous? What you're saying?
Oh, maybe that's what I'm saying. Where I'm like, maybe I'm still going to support the club. It doesn't change very much. I don't want us to sign with any other worse sponsors than this. But if it keeps our club financially healthy, and I don't know,
Yeah.
it's hard to.
All right.
It's hard to. I'm 50-50 on it. Let's hope there's no atrocities. I don't know.
Let's hope there's no atrocities.
I
Too
don't know.
late, my friend. Too late, my
Yeah,
friend.
what are we supposed to say?
But
I don't-
yeah, I mean it's a whole nother discussion. But so you're
Yeah.
pretty 50-50 on it, as long as it pays the bills. And for Borussia Dortmund, it's very, very important because some of the older fans always remember a time when Borussia Dortmund almost went solvent and they never.
Yeah.
And it's like you look across the river in a club like or down the way,
Schalke.
a club like Schalke is getting close to that, and it's like they got real
Yeah.
close to it pretty recently.
Well,
And
yeah. Do you remember the because they were almost they had
they
such
almost
a
became an
financial
amateur
issue.
club. Yeah.
They almost became an amateur club, right? Yeah.
Yeah. They had to. They just and they're struggling. I mean, they're mid-table and financial. I don't know. Just
I
Schalke
believe
needs.
Dortmund gave them some money. I think teams are giving them money to try to remain somewhat competitive.
That
I
makes
don't know.
sense. A team like
Yeah.
Schalke needs Rheinmetall. That's who they should have signed with. They need Rheinmetall.
Honestly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sign with Qatar, you guys. Find the
That's
work.
what you need it. That sometimes the ends does justify the means. Okay,
who's
I
doing
think
the
we're gonna
worst?
get out of here. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Before we say anything stupid.
But any last thoughts? Tell us about Dortmund. Anything you wanted to talk about Dortmund? You didn't get a chance to talk about. Now's the time.
I think as much as I'm excited about the wingers and all these things, I think our midfield's really exciting too. And we obviously Pascal Gross is exciting. Sabitzer is exciting. We have Watchin, who's a young guy who's really exciting. We have a lot of excitement, and if you're looking for a team to become excited by because of young talent, Dortmund's your team this year.
Yeah, you convert your girlfriend. You can convert some fans. You're
Honestly, yeah.
proselytizing. So it's a lot of exciting things to look forward to with Borussia Dortmund this season. Excellent.
I think it's all positives. All positives.
Oh. Us. There's been a Shitsa Boys going at seat. Bucket hats. Sorry, we're a little late on the US stream. We're off on the US stream in a quick minute. So join us there. But if not, we'll talk Germany. Next week. Tschüss. Bis nächste Woche.